Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/entitled people, where grown-ups throw fits when they don't get what they want. And guys, you've seen the title. OP's mom decides to teach her adult son a lesson for not obeying her. As always, the stories in this episode are absolutely ridiculous, so get ready for a crazy ride, don't shake your heads too hard, and guys, subscribe if you haven't already. Steve-O appreciates it. Okay, so I caught my neighbor spraying weedicide on my lawn, inside my fenced backyard, because she said that she was sick and tired of looking at all the weeds. Now, she thought she was doing me a solid favor, but 1. I like dandelions, as they're good for the bees. 2. I have pet rabbits, dogs, cats, and a tortoise that I like to let roam the yard, and all of them eat or at least nibble and lick the grass, so it's literally poisoning my pets. So anyways, I kick her out and take my pets inside. So after she did that, 2 of my rabbits are dead and another is in critical condition. I'll never be able to let my pets outside again to eat the grass because weedicide takes forever to go away because it can sit in the soil for who knows how long, and I'm worried that the dogs and cats might end up having a reaction too, since they also nibble the grass. I'm now suing her for damage to my property because it's now unusable for my animals. Also the vet bills and emotional damage due to the death of my 2 rabbits. I'm also trying to get the cops to pursue a case of animal abuse, or at minimum, criminal damage, because she did basically poison my animals. I doubt anything will come from it because I have to prove ill intent, but they're pursuing her for criminal trespass. However, my parents and my girlfriend think that I'm being unnecessarily cruel because, quote, it was an accident, and she thought she was just being a good neighbor, and that I'm making it to be a bigger deal than it is. They said I should just ask her to pay for my vet bills. What do you think? Guys, I think OP is totally justified in suing her, and she deserves it for thinking that she had any right to be on OP's property at all, especially since the outcome was the loss of OP's 2 beloved pets. So OP does come back with an update. The vets got back saying that they don't think it was commercial herbicide, as the necropsy showed severe chemical burns and corrosion to internal organs. So hopefully OP does get compensated, and they didn't come back with any updates, so I'm assuming everything's solved already. My husband was asked to be the best man at his longtime best friend's wedding. We didn't get along super great with his fiancée, but they were a package deal, and of course we wanted to show support. My husband and I live in a major city, and his friend lives in a small town a few hours away. So when it came time for wedding clothes shopping, they came to the city and stayed with us. The fiancé invited me to go with them to pick out wedding dress and bridesmaid dresses, as I was the only one not in the bridal party. I thought just to be inclusive. So I went along, and after everything was picked out, the fiancé put her nose about an inch away from my nose and said, "Will you be one of my bridesmaids?" Now I was really caught off guard, and I felt like I had no choice but to say yes. This girl is the kind of person who gets her feelings hurt anytime she hears no. Like, even if she invites you to something with no notice and you already had plans. If you say no, it's gonna be weeks of drama and pouting. So I stammered something about how flattered I was, and suddenly, I was stuffed into a mermaid green monstrosity of a bridesmaid dress. When it came time to pay for the dresses, I was told that we were expected to buy our own dress. The dress she had picked for us to wear was about $125. This was an unexpected expense, but I kind of sighed and pulled out my credit card. Then, when they were buying the wedding dress and the mother-in-law's dress, their card didn't work. They tried 3 times and it was all declined. So I had to pay, and they said that they'd hit me back later, another $450. The best man clothes were also a fiasco. The groom decided on formal tuxedos with tails and top hats. The rental on that ended up being $200 plus $50 for a top hat, which I guess we had to buy and couldn't rent, but that's cool. There's gonna be lots more occasions that would call for a top hat, right? So that was that until the week of the wedding. We bypassed a lot of the wedding showers and engagement parties as we weren't living in the same area and couldn't drive down every other week. We did come down the week before, for me to attend the bachelorette party and my husband to host the bachelor party, and we stayed until the wedding. I spent about another $200 on party gifts as another bridesmaid asked me to pick something up. Obviously, she didn't pay me back, and I was getting used to that. Nobody paid me back. The groom is a gamer nerd, so they had a LAN party for the bachelor party. The only expense we ended up fronting for that was alcohol, which ended up being about $300. It became increasingly obvious through the week that no planning had gone to the wedding itself. The city park had been reserved, but no chairs or decorations had been arranged, and the food and cake were all gonna be DIY. It took an army of everybody involved, aside from the bride and groom of course, to make the finger sandwiches, baby quiches, mini cheesecakes, and other nibbles required. It was the height of the summer in the South, and hauling 100 folding chairs and stringing twinkle lights and flowers in above 100-degree weather was frustrating. Nobody in their right mind would plan an outdoor wedding in July in our area and also select ultra-formal clothing. No. The bride was also 2 hours late to her own wedding. She had a friend come and do all of our hair, and she expected to be paid $50 each at the end. Money is just hemorrhaging out of me at this point, and I'm in such a state of exhaustion and shock that I no longer care. The wedding happens and everybody seems happy. My husband and I were preparing to drag ourselves home to recuperate physically and financially, and then the bride stops me. She grabs my arm. Now I'm thinking, oh, this is where she thanks us for helping make her big nightmarish day a success. And there's no such luck. She's crying and shaking with anger, and she says, "Huh, I guess you didn't get me a wedding present. Just so you know, when someone invites you to a wedding, you're supposed to get them a present." Now at this, I froze and couldn't close my mouth. I'm sorry, what? She got dragged off to take such and such picture, and I was still standing there, failing to compute what had just happened to me. We just left. We couldn't really say bye or anything. I was just so done. The car ride home was so much repeating what had happened to each other and just being at a loss. We needed a lot of time to just process how much of a ride we'd taken on with no thank you, no apologies, and they were actually completely ungrateful and thought that we'd scammed them out of a wedding present. Now I feel like I need to add that we're not rich. We're young, hardworking people who basically emptied their bank accounts to help someone else's wedding not be a complete dumpster fire due to the lack of planning. Guys, that bride sounded like such an entitled and toxic person. Like having OP cover everything from wedding dresses, to bridesmaid dresses, to gifts, to alcohol, and then she had the audacity to get mad at OP for not getting them a wedding gift? Like, are you freaking kidding me? Are you guys shaking your heads as much as I am at this? I'm also mad at the fact that they didn't pay back OP a single time. And I'd like to think that OP paid that much money to have them removed from her lives. Okay, so my husband and I are a gay couple. We were married for 2 years. When we met, my husband was heavily depressed because of his mom's constant pressure to find a girl, marry, and make a family as soon as possible. She didn't care that he wanted to get an education first. Her only concern was, you have a job now, and now you must have a family. Nothing else matters. She would constantly tell him to just find a girl to marry and have babies. Now, my husband and I, we have an age gap of 11 years. He's now 22 and I'm 33, but when we met, he was 20 and I was 31. We dated in secrecy for 2 years. He was staying at my place often, which led mother-in-law to think that he had found a bride. My husband was like, "Yes, Mom, I found someone I love." And mother-in-law was like, "Well, great. Then bring her over so I can judge whether or not she's the right choice for you." Now, even if he was straight, that's a messed up thing to say, as she obviously meant that he can only marry if his mom approves it. Then my husband told me that he was tired of hiding, that he wanted us to marry and then he would come out to mother-in-law. I was happy to hear it because I was getting tired of hiding too. We married the same way we dated, in secrecy. We only had a handful of good friends there with us, and the next day, my husband and I both went to visit his mother and tell her the truth. Now, even though my husband warned me beforehand that it might get ugly, I was still hoping that his mother would support her son, as he is her child after all. So fast forward to meeting mother-in-law. It did get ugly, more ugly than I could ever imagine. First, she thought we were joking, and when she realized that we're not, she got livid. Now, I've heard many homophobic things in my life, but I've never met a person that would be more homophobic than she was. She would say things such as, "You have HIV, don't you?" And she would say to her son, "There is no such abnormalities in our family. Where did you get it from? 2 men can't be a couple, that's stupid. You need to see a psychiatrist." Now, all these arguments and many more made me feel as if we were still living in the Middle Ages. She then slaps my husband several times, and when I pushed him behind me to defend him, she slapped me as well. She cursed me and then cursed her son, telling him that he's not her son anymore and won't be until he refuses this lewd lifestyle, and she yelled at us to get out of her house, which we gladly did. First, we thought we were gonna go to the police and report mother-in-law for assaulting us. But then we realized that we can't prove it. We had no witnesses, no cameras, no nothing. My husband was very upset that his mom said this to him. Now, I do come from a big family. I have 3 brothers, 2 sisters, I've got uncles and aunts, and I've got a bunch of cousins. And he doesn't. He doesn't have a father, he doesn't have siblings, and his mother is basically his only family. Of course, now he's part of my family, but still, hearing that your own mother disowned you is really hurtful. So a few days pass. Then my husband receives a call from his mom. It seemed that she had calmed down and was able to talk to him in a civilized manner. She then went to go visit him at his job, but my husband was wrong when he thought that she was just gonna accept us. Once again, she tried to convince him that this is all nonsense, that our feelings aren't real, can't possibly be real, and that she's found a good doctor who could cure him from all this. Of course, my husband refused to see any doctor because it's not a disease, and no medically educated doctor would say a cure is necessary. And then she asked my husband what I'm doing for a living, what's my profession, and he told her that I'm a firefighter. Suddenly, she seemed a lot happier, and she was like, "Oh, then it's not so bad after all." At this, my husband asked her why. Why would my job change her thoughts about me? And she was like, "Well, it's a dangerous job. Firefighters often have many accidents. Maybe he'll end up in a burning building one day and just die trying to save someone." Like, how evil do you have to be to wish that to another person? Obviously, she hates me the most because I'm the eldest and she believes that I've messed up her son. So I go to talk to her when she arrived at our house. Unfortunately, she knows where we lived because she followed my husband home one day, which is another twisted thing. She told me to leave her son alone, that there's no way that he should be with a man, that I corrupted him and that this is all my doing, and that she'll do everything in her power to separate us. At this, I advised her to educate herself, as she's clearly very ignorant, and I couldn't convince her that I'm not after a quick fling with her son. I told her that 2 years ago, she had led her son to depression, with her bugging him about girls and not letting him live his life. And she was like, "I was just making sure he doesn't forget that he has some obligations in his life." At that, I'm thinking, what the heck? Since when is marriage an obligation? I also reminded her that she wished me dead, and I haven't forgotten it, and she was like, "You deserve more than dead, you pedo." Now, I honestly don't know how and why that came across because my husband has never been underage when dating me. So last night, she tried to break into our house. I don't know why, but it was obviously her. In the middle of the night, we were awoken by our dog barking and someone banging at our front door. Someone was jiggling the doorknob for a good while, and we didn't answer the door, of course, but my first thought was, oh my goodness, it's mother-in-law. When the morning came and we were leaving for work, the first thing I saw when I opened the door were many notes taped to it. They were all typed on the computer and they had all the same content. Horrible things to me. There was my name and things like, "Die, I'm waiting for your death. Leave my son alone, you pedo," etc., etc. My husband saw these notes too, and we were both sure that it was his mom because no one else would do that to us. We talked to a police officer who's a friend of ours, and he said that we should save all these notes, but actually the police can't do anything because she hasn't actually physically attacked us. As long as those are just words, they can't do anything to her. He said the main thing is proof, and if we don't have proof, the police can't help us. We're actually thinking about moving because we don't feel safe anymore. We don't know what else could come to her mind. It's so sad that we live in a country that's supposed to be safe for everybody, and there's still some individuals that don't realize that it's the 21st century, and people are different. So I'm posting this for the second time now, and I didn't see that coming. We made the big mistake when we didn't take my mother-in-law's threats seriously enough. We thought that she was like a dog that barks but doesn't bite. Speaking of dogs, the hero in this story is actually our dog, and heavens bless our dog. This happened at night. My husband and I were heavy sleepers, and we were dreaming sweet dreams and didn't notice anything. If our dog hadn't jumped on our bed and barked, waking us up, we'd probably both be dead by now. I'm a firefighter myself, and I realized that the fire was too big already and we couldn't put it out by ourselves, so we escaped through the window, fortunately unharmed. Somebody had called the firefighters who happened to be my colleagues, which was a weird situation. It was the first time they had to work on their buddy's house. They tried to work as fast and efficiently as they could, but our house was damaged beyond repair, and we can't even live in it anymore. Mother-in-law got caught, and she basically dug her own grave because she herself said that she was hoping till the last minute that her son would come to his senses, break up with me, and start to date women. But he didn't. And with her entitled attitude and not getting what she wanted, she felt ashamed that she had created such a deformed human being. So she decided that it's better to have no son than one who's gay. She basically said she wanted to kill him. So even though at first what happened was classified as arson with the intent to damage the property, which would mean a softer sentence, afterwards it became arson with the intent to endanger life. And that means much more severe punishment, even up to life imprisonment. Our lawyer said that she most likely will not receive the maximum sentence because no one died, but she'll receive at least a couple years behind bars. And there's not much her lawyer can help with because she confessed. And she said such a stupid thing. She said, "Well, but my son's husband's a firefighter. Why didn't he save his house?" Now at that, I was shocked. It was the middle of the night. I was just awoken with no gear, no tools, no equipment, and I was caught completely unaware by the fire. Like, are you serious? You think that because I'm a firefighter, that means I can put out the fire with my bare hands? Many people think that a house fire is like what they see in the movies, flames and light, but actually it's a complete darkness. The smoke makes the room so dark within minutes that you can't even see your own hands. Now we're living with our friends while we find another place to live. Our clothing, our documents, our passports, marriage certificates, everything is gone. But of course, those are just things. We can buy them again. We're alive, and that's the most important thing. My husband is done with her. He's so upset that his own mother had wished him dead because he chose to be with a man. Before this, he still hoped that their relationship could be fixed, but now he doesn't want to hear a single word about her anymore. It's our own fault as well, because we didn't give in to her entitled wishes, and we didn't give the words the seriousness they deserved. We know some gay people who also have homophobic parents, but they've never tried to kill. I guess that's why we didn't think it would happen to us. Guys, this story is so insane, I'm still left shaking my head at this. And honestly, OP isn't allowed to say that any part of that is their fault. Like, in hindsight, maybe you should have taken her threats a little bit more seriously, but as OP did say, they thought her bark was much worse than her bite. Who would have thought that this crazy woman would set a freaking house on fire with her kid inside of it? But guys, that's crazy, unhinged, entitled people. If I don't get what I want, if you don't do what I want, I don't care if you're my son, there's gonna be repercussions. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our / entitled people. And boy, oh boy, that was a crazy one, guys. If you missed yesterday's episode on the channel, a crazy Karen pulls out a taser when she's caught stealing. The story gets so much worse from there, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.